Is it live? Okay, it is already live. Welcome all of you to Hok Aloron. Today we are starting a new series. When we talk about cinema, we should talk about arts and sciences. I mean, I wanted to do a lot of content on science, but you will see that in India the situation is a bit different. So I will mention all these things, and I will mention few ways you can implement the NEP guidelines, because NEP is not just a guideline, it's the way you become curious and go for a process of acquiring knowledge. Things start to make sense, you have curiosity, the natural world around you, the society around you, you want to know more about, so you go for an exploration yourself. Nobody has to tell you that. You want to pursue something, suppose for example you want to pursue movies, you want to pursue cinema, you want to pursue art, whatever it takes, you want to take a path of science, you have curiosity towards science, storytelling, art, music, everything can come together, everything comes together in fact in cinema. So as I always mention that cinema is a great profession, maybe one of the world's greatest professions we have, where everything is coming together in amalgamation. So it's an opportunity. Now, uh, I will talk about few things like what comes before and what comes after, what follows what, science or technology. So generally, when we talk about science, many people think that we are talking in terms of technology. But if you think about an ancient civilization like India, we made a lot of progress in sciences. Then we, after a long time, we figured out few names so that we could, as I mentioned, we could name a few disciplines so that we could streamline the process. We could, group different sciences. We can name different sciences. But ultimately, what are you doing? You're trying to make sense of things around you, the universe. You are trying to find out the secrets of the universe. Maybe you are using a method of evidence, empirical approach, maybe you are taking. So maybe your intuition is very powerful. With your intuition and your curiosity you can make a lot happen. But science is telling you you can take a path of evidence, empirical approach, and there are so many ways. So it is both a body of knowledge and a process. It is a body of knowledge and it's a process too. You can acquire knowledge by observing, by watching, by recording. There are many ways, so we will come there. But I wanted to do few sessions regarding science, and if you have gone through the sessions of Hok Aloron, whatever I have done so far, you will see that the scientific thoughts, the scientific processes I have mentioned at least a bit, sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. I have mentioned. Suppose I am mentioning editing, especially if you go through the series of craft and art, filmmaking, craft and art, you will see whenever I am talking about photography, whenever I am talking about cinematography, whenever I am talking about visual. When I started Kothar Kotha, I did a session on visual arts, and you will see I talked about different perceptions, psychological perception you can have, shapes, geometric shapes, and many other things. So I talked about lines, shapes, contour, volume, so many other things, light and shadow. Now, if you look at physics, if you look at mathematics, you will see that you have studied reflection in physics, refraction in physics, but you don't know how you are going to apply in cinema. So, in this series, what we are going to do is you have studied those concepts, you have a knack for filmmaking, you have a lot of passion and enthusiasm for filmmaking. So maybe that passion is propelling you to pursue a career in science so that you can contribute to filmmaking. Suppose you are working on a sensor, it can be a CCD sensor, it can be a CMOS sensor of a camera. Suppose you are working in something like Dolby Atmos, sound design. Maybe you are working in shaping the cinematic experience in a theater or in a space. You can do in many ways. So we have cinematography, we have sound, we have art direction, production design. There you are using science too. So we are using science each and every time. It is all around us. You are using science knowingly or unknowingly. Uh, if you are going through a discipline of science, if you are going through uh, a graduation where you are taking science deliberately or purposefully, then people are considering that you are taking a you are coming from science background. Then eventually, if you go towards higher pursuits, I can consider the Nobel Prize too. If you are going for the higher pursuits, you will see that you are going for holding on to your curiosity. You are you know uh, then you are guided by your intuition too, and you are focusing a lot of import you are putting a lot of importance on your intuition, because after a while you will see that the equation won't make much sense. You are stuck somewhere, and then suddenly you will see a spark of light will come. Your intuition will help you a lot to maybe playing an instrument can help. So all these things will help you. Maybe rock climbing can help you. You will see that when you are going beyond the basic nitty gritties, the basic things, all those things that are part of your life, your hobby, things you actually like to do, you will do those activities. Suddenly you will get the flash of insights, and you will understand that I could have done it in a different way. I could have changed the equation. I could have done it in a different way. So these things happen. So it's a part of life. It is not something that with you are doing a graduation forcefully, you have to spend your 3 or 4 years. Whether you are doing applied sciences like computer sciences, information technology, electronics and communication, aeronautical engineering, you know. Then your mechanical engineering, civil engineering, you can do applied sciences, you can do engineering. But the problem, what I am mentioning here is, the problem is in India, you're doing engineering for the sake of a graduation because you are coming from a scientific background. You will maybe you will have a white collar job. People will respect you for that. But eventually, if you see the passion and enthusiasm for science, you're not having that. Maybe just by taking that discipline and going through the graduation, you lack the interest in applied sciences. Maybe it is like that too. At your 10th standard, you're studying physics, physical sciences, other sciences, mathematics and all these things. Maybe you liked to study all these things. In your 12th standards, class 2, you studied physics, chemistry, biological sciences, environmental sciences at some places. You studied all those things. Maybe you scored really high. Maybe you wanted to study these things. Maybe you didn't understand it enough, or maybe you did understand it enough, but you quite didn't figure out what you wanted to be in your life. Maybe suddenly you took up music, you started playing guitar or an instrument, you went to music production, but you saw that the environment is not pushing you to do great things. And the moment you are going towards that industry, which is focusing more on arts, you will see that you are coming from science background, you don't understand arts. This is a field where artists have to thrive, and they are the people who are telling you that they are not even artists. So this is the situation. Definitions, I have mentioned it many times, so I won't mention it again. But what I am talking about is, when you come to Hok Aloron, from now onwards, we are doing a specific series regarding sciences. Now it can be social sciences, whatever I am mentioning. We have a playlist on psychology. So if you have gone through the sessions, you will see I am talking about sociology, social sciences. I'm talking about psychology. I'm talking about anthropology. I'm talking about economics. And if you specifically go to You Can Achieve, you will see I'm talking about economics there in business context, but you will have the essence of economics. Things will start to make sense, how the entire ecosystem is working, how the nation is working as a whole, macroeconomics, microeconomics. You can do all these things, you can understand all these things, the forces working. And then you can go to engineering, applied sciences. You can go to higher pursuits of mathematics, physics, chemistry, whatever you want to do. But what can be your motivation? What is your motivation? Sometimes you go through a graduation of engineering and then you figure out what you want to do in life. Some people become writers, leaving their job. Some people go to consulting, doing other stuff, maybe music, maybe performances here and there, scattered here and there. But what I am talking about in Hok Aloron is, especially after today's session, it is a consummate approach, a wholesome approach where you are having arts, sciences, and commerce. Because if you see, a few months ago, we did a session on your attitude towards money, and that is related to you can achieve, because there we are talking about the business aspects, how you look at a product, how you take it to people, your the value you are adding in distribution, the value you are adding in content, the value you are adding in customers lives. So you're doing all those things, commercial aspects, financial, finance, accounting, all these things we are doing, even economics. Here we have talked about arts, fine arts, dramatic arts, then your liberal arts, all these things we have talked about, writing. And if you look at the social sciences, you will see the more you understand the social sciences, whether you have studied for yourself, you will see that the myths will start to make sense. Myths, archetypes, then your scriptures, then you will see that these characters and the conflicts, they will start to make more sense, because you will go to the length and breadth and depth of the conflict. As I actually draw you know rectangle, a three-dimensional rectangle. Next, in the next session, I will show you. I draw a three-dimensional rectangle of conflict where I put length, breadth, and depth. Because if you go through the conflict, the more you understand all these minute things, the more you can create the conflict in a subtle manner. Many people go through scripts where you are having one-dimensional boring characters, so you can create multi-dimensional characters, three-dimensional, multi-dimensional characters. The characters are more appealing, people can relate to those characters. The more you understand the social sciences, the more you understand psychology, sociology, anthropology, social sciences, you will see that the more you understand it, not just doing it for the sake of doing it, the more you understand it, the more you can relate to it, the more you can observe people, the more you can observe the behavior of people, the more you can understand people by a few things, by their conflicts, whatever they say or whatever they don't say, even without uttering a word, you can understand where they are going, where they can go. Those things you can do. You may make all those you know decisions based on that. You will see your characters will become more appealing, your script will become more appealing. So why should we do that? I will come to sciences just in few minutes, but you will see that as I have mentioned again and again, that it's a microcosm of life when you are talking about a script. Now, if in life we have business, if in life we have commerce, if in life we have economics, if we in life we have all these forces, if in life we have arts, if in life we have sciences, then why should you make the separation? When you are making the separation, either you are making excuses or you don't know it enough. Now, it can be a problem of attitude or it can be a problem of competence. If it is a problem of attitude, then you need to work on it, because by just tweaking the attitude or changing the attitude, you can make a lot happen. You can learn new things and you can do so many other things, so that you can actually make it happen. If it is a problem of competence, then you figure out what skill sets you are lacking, where you can improve on, what are the things you need to learn to make it better. Suppose you are telling a story, you feel that it is not quite there, maybe based on the plot line, maybe based on the conflict, maybe based on the story arc or the character arc. You are going through specific scientific studies. Nobody is telling you to, but you want to enhance the script. You want to make the scripts better. So for that process, you are going through a research, a lot of scientific elements or components in research too. You are involved in that process. You want to do it, you are curious, you are guided by your intuition, you quite not feel that that is the right thing, you feel that that is the right thing, you feel that is the wrong thing. Really respect that, because many people don't have that. Many people will take you to a detour, they will play with your decisions, they will give you guilt traps so that you take the wrong decisions, you go towards a detour. But those intuitions, your instincts, tremendously precious. because you walked a lot, knowingly or unknowingly. You had your connection with the universe. That is a grand science. And in Indian culture, in cosmology, if I talk about cosmology, you will see that many great scientists are talking about that. So we talk about quantum physics, we talk about quantum mechanics, we talk about the quantum stuff, and people still are figuring out what is the right way to go about it, whether this is the way, whether that is the way. There are, this is there, that is there. They're not quite sure about it. They think that they are sure, but some element of doubt is still there. But you will see, if you look towards the Upanishads and the Indian culture, the sages, they have been talking about these things for a long time. Rabindranath Tagore, for example, he was pursuing whatever he could. People say that he was a writer, he was an artist. That is just leveling a great man, I think. But if you talk about, I'm talking about things in Hok Aloron in the same light, because when you are doing everything together, everything is connected. And Rabindranath Tagore, why he is so important and why the youth needs to know, more than being just a writer or just being an artist, he took his pursuits in that level. So when the scientists or philosophers could talk to him, they could relate to the concepts, they could relate to the wisdom, they could relate to the insights he had gathered, uh, working in different things. That is what we do in life, and that should be something the youth that should be something the youth should do in India. But the problem is again the separation. So if you are coming from the scientific background, nowadays you will see in India, especially in Bengal, it is quite a sad situation, because people are coming from the language background, and people who are coming from the science background means they have gone through the graduation, either doing math or physics or chemistry, so they think that they are superior. So when someone is coming from the language background, they think that they are inferior. When somebody is coming from the art background, they think, or they are made to think, that these people are inferior. So there is a clash, there is a fight, and sometimes the teachers are provoking it, or they are staying silent. Why should you? That's why we are talking about all these things in Hokaron, because the idea of Indian culture, the idea of this wholesome nature of education, America is doing it in a great way. And any culture who wants to make great leaps, who wants to that wants to make great leaps, that wants to make great progress, they have understood this thing. You can learn everything. You can neuroplasticity we talk about. You can learn anything, and so the restrictions or the limitations you are actually talking about, those are the restrictions or limitation you are putting on yourself. I have thought about it in this manner for all my life, because I did whatever I wanted to do, I learned whatever I wanted to learn, and I enjoyed each and every bit of it, because I really wanted to learn, I really wanted to go through that path. So I enjoyed each and every bit of it. Now when I talk about stuff, you think that this person is talking about all these things with a lot of passion and enthusiasm. It's a lot of excitation, energy. But I really enjoyed doing those things, or I really enjoyed that pursuit. So whenever I listen to a conversation, whenever I talk to my friend who are in the particular or respective disciplines, I can talk about anything, and we can start any conversation, and we can go anywhere, and we don't feel bored because we enjoy those things. So that is the thing. That's the reason I can mention. Uh, that's the reason I'm mentioning here. Maybe for a while we have talked about arts. We didn't particularly had we didn't have a playlist on sciences particularly till now, but now we have that. Maybe we will talk about equations, we will talk about analog and digital, we will talk about digital signal processing, uh, we will talk about the conversion you are doing from analog to digital. Yeah, sine waves, we will talk about 90-degree phase shifts, we will talk about cosine waves. So you will see that The things you are studying in physics, the things you are studying in chemistry. We will talk about gelatins, emulsions, gelatin, the earlier days of cinematography, film, and now digital. What are the barriers? What are the changes and things that changed? There was a time when people used to do the editing, in Moviola or Flatbed. They used to taste the gelatin because it used to have certain taste, so they used to just lick it and they used to like that smell. So I'm not suggesting you to do that, but those things used to be there. But what is it? You have to understand, if you are having a scientific pursuit, it is giving you an age, that the chemical compound in that, what is there, how you are mixing the things, taking the path of chemistry, and how you are actually figuring out the solution, how you are having the solution, and then the use of the solution. So here, from today onwards, whenever we are talking about cinema, you will see that we are talking about the scientific aspect, especially here in this particular playlist. When we are talking about arts, we are talking it in any place. Even if we are talking about acting, I'll talk about the scientific elements specifically. So maybe there we are not talking, for example, I mentioned in Michael Chekhov's method, you're doing a lot of physical movements. Laban's movements, you're doing a lot of physical movements, and you will see the psychological implications of that. The more you understand psychology, sociology, you will see by doing those gestures how you are communicating to people. You will understand sociological responses, how you're understanding sociology, how your behavior or your gesture is creating an impact in the society. If you are in a leadership position, you will see your non-verbal communication, verbal communication, these things are making a lot of impact. The way you are doing public speaking, the more you understand all these things, the more you can manage yourself a bit, the more you can manage yourself in a better way. You can understand what I'm talking about. So science is everywhere. Arts, sciences, and commerce, the business aspects, we are talking about that too. Maybe we will do a particular playlist of commerce here in Hok Aloron. But as long as you can achieve, I think that is enough to talk about the business part. So, talking about science, I wrote down few things. So, what follows what? Science follows tech, or tech follows science, as I mentioned. For example, it is said that zero was invented in India. Now, you think about the scenario. We used to have Roman alphabets, or the Roman numbers. There was no sense of zero. Now, since we have zero, things start to make more sense. It seems a lot easier. But at that time, you used to, like I, you used to write one as I, and two double I's, then three, then four, and X as 10, XI as 11. You used to have the notations like that. Now, after the zero was invented, we had a huge leap. Now you will see, or you will ask that what is the significance in cinema? The calculations you are doing in the softwares, behind that you are, the simulations you are using. Maybe in the simulations you are not talking about all those things, but the very calculations or the very algorithms you use behind the software, they are using zero, they are using the number system, they are using the real and complex number. Even when you are using the coordinates, it is having a sense of zero. So it is being used everywhere. But when you are using AutoCAD or any other simulation software, you are focusing on that scenario. You are focusing on that thing at that particular moment. But behind that, you are figuring out all those things. That's why I am mentioning, when you are very young, you are studying everything. So maybe you are doing Vedic math, maybe you are doing the number system, maybe you are doing surds, logarithmic uh, studies, maybe you are doing logarithm, you are doing differential integral calculus, you are doing coordinate geometry, you are doing trigonometry, you are doing geometry, you are doing all these things. Now, maybe after a few years or after many years, you are going to animation. or maybe you are dealing with the geometric shapes in many aspects, right? If you are talking about sound in a very intricate manner, you will see the geometrical modeling can help, especially if you are dealing with the shapes, especially if you are looking at the resonance, especially if you are looking at the frequencies, dealing with the frequencies, so you will see that the more you are finding the universal connection and all these things, geometry will help you. Platonic solids and all these things. The more you understand Fibonacci series, then there is Pascal's triangle, and all these things you learn early at your studies. You learn all these things. Then when you do the programming, if you are into programming, you will see by doing the flowchart or algorithms, you are studying Pascal's triangle, you're studying Fibonacci series. So you have the essence of all those things with you. Now when you are actually working on a particular thing in animation, or maybe a pre-visualization, whatever you require for the filmmaking purpose, or for creating an animation or content creation, whatever you want to do in your life, the more you are into storytelling, the more you can focus on the details, because you have when you're doing animation, you're starting everything, creating everything from scratch. So if the character is doing from this to this, then you have to create the entire thing from scratch. So if you want to create it like this, so you have to create it like this, and you won't be doing this. So if you do this will take a particular calculation. If you do this will take a different calculation. So you have to figure out, you have to take the decision whether you are trying to do this or you are trying to do this. So behind that, you are using all those mathematics, you are using the physics and all these things. I just gave you an example, but when you're creating everything from scratch, pre-visualization, many people do it to save the cost. They are using the game engines nowadays. When you are into sciences, when you are into tech, they are using VR, AR, MR. They are using the game engine, so that you are actually looking at the movie before it is being shot. You have the characters, they are actually, you are looking at the composition of the shots, the way the camera is moving. You are watching everything, but you don't have the cast yet. So when you have the cast, so those people will replace those gaming characters, and eventually you will have the film. Now you have artificial intelligence, and the strikes are going on. Writers are vouching for their rights. Actors are speaking up for their rights, because AI is recreating a lot of things that is lessening the demand of an actor. And many people are saying that the stars are there, but for the low level actors, or sometimes the mid level actors, they are losing their jobs because the AI can do the things they are supposed to do. So those are the concerns too. So how you can blend the human element, how you can bring the advanced technological thing. For example, if you are talking about AI, it has a benefit too, or it has several benefits too, because when you are doing algorithmic video editing, sometimes what you do, editing is an invisible art. We have always told that, and we have always called it an invisible art, a very significant part in filmmaking. And I still call it a great thing in filmmaking, because editing can make or break a movie. So you are figuring out each and everything, you're listening to each and every aspect of sound. You are looking at the shots, you're putting the shots like in this combination, you're putting the sequences in this combination or in that combination, and it can have a different feeling altogether, right? But if you are not doing that serious content, or that content doesn't deserve your time or effort, but you want to create a decent content, a video editor with artificial intelligence can do that, if you really want to do that in that way. Otherwise, I will always tell you, go towards that artistic, shape the movie with your own hands, using the editing machines or using the editing software. There is nothing quite like it. But if you want to make a quick video which doesn't need that human intervention, then you can go for the artificial intelligence driven editors, and you can go for it. So depending on your the requirement. And even if you don't have advanced tech, you have science at your disposal. So tech came later, but the science was there. Using the science, we had the tech. And now I can tell you one thing, that even if you are making a progress in technology, that is driven by science only. So the science is making progress, you can always learn something, and the technology is making progress. Suppose tomorrow you have a requirement. Suppose tomorrow you have a requirement, you want to create something using the technology. Your science will help you. So your scientific pursuit, your scientific body of knowledge, everything, scientific discussions, everything will help you to take the technology forward, to take the scientific pursuits forward. That's why people are always researching, they are always going for higher pursuits. That's why we do that. Now science can consist of activities by which you are observing the you are observing the world. Now it can be watching, আমরা দেখছি, it can be listening, আমরা শুনছি, it can be observing, observe করছি, আমরা পর্যবেক্ষণ করছি যদি বলি, it can be recording, আমরা রেকর্ড করছি। and recording যখন আমি বলছি, it can be recording visually, যেটা আমরা we are doing it with camera using cinematography. When we are doing it orally or sonic part আমরা use করছি, then we can do it by recording the sound. So the moment cinema is coming into place, the recording has a very important place. We are recording the visuals using the camera, we are recording the sound using the our sound capture devices. And nowadays, if you talk about modern films or advanced films, few films are creating motion capture. So then you are recording too, you are recording using motion capture. So depending on the requirement, but science can help you in any way. So pursuit and application of knowledge, understanding the natural and social world following a systematic methodology. Whenever you are talking about science, sometimes people bring this systematic methodology thing, because whenever many people whenever they are going through a scientific discipline, they talk about all these things. It's very systematic, it is very systematic, it is a systematic discipline. And the moment someone is coming from art, they are saying, oh, you are not having any discipline, you don't believe in discipline, you don't have anything systematic. Today you think about doing this, to tomorrow you think about doing that. You are an artist, you are not a systemic person, so you cannot talk about science. Science, it is called to be a systematic methodology based on evidence. But if you pursue science at higher levels, you will see there is certain kind of madness there too, and you are taking it to the art level, and you are doing crazy things, and you are not rejecting those ideas as crazy ideas. Rather, those crazy ideas are helping you to take a bigger leap. So that's why the more you push yourself towards the higher pursuits, you will see that the beyond the dilly dally, beyond the boring details, you have so many things, and your curiosity can guide you through the way. So that is one thing. As I mentioned, it can be a body of knowledge. It is both a body of knowledge and a process of acquiring knowledge. So knowledge and a process. Now I can talk about induction. I can talk about deduction. You understand all these things, and I will continue to mention parsimony, induction, deduction, epistemology, the knowledge of what knowledge is. So we can talk about that. Occam's razor. We can talk about parsimony. We can do all these things, ontology, epistemology, and we will continue to talk about that. But what is the significance? What is the application? How you can use those things in cinema? That is something we are talking about. So then, depending on the requirement, so you can start with the requirement. This is the thing you want to do, right? Depending on the requirement, then you are going for studies, then you are going for your scientific pursuits. Maybe you are studying it yourself, or maybe a team is studying it. Maybe you require a camera which is not there yet, and you are taking the lead, to build that camera. You can do that, or maybe to build that sound design process, to build that sound design equipment, or maybe to build that thing you have in the theater, so that you can experience that sound design experience. Like we had Dolby 5.1, we had Dolby 7.1, then we had Dolby Atmos. Now many people are talking about Dolby Atmos only, but if you go to few theaters in Kolkata or in India, you will see that Dolby 5.1 theaters are there. Dolby 7.1 theaters are there. Maybe you are not understanding it enough. But if you are into filmmaking as a serious profession, you will understand Dolby 5.1 and Dolby Atmos can make a difference. An IMAX experience and a normal experience can make a difference. And if the director knows what he or she is doing, it can make a hell of a lot of difference. So that's why the more you understand what the storytelling is demanding, according to that, you can use the camera, you can use the sound equipments, you can use the art direction, production design. And if you have the scientific curiosity developed very early, then you can take bigger leaps, or maybe for that particular project. Because in India it is a very sad thing, we had so many great scientists, and yet we don't have biographies or autobiographies. Maybe we have books, as like biographies and autobiographies, based on scientists or their lives. But if you are looking at the movies, we almost don't have any film, or many, maybe very few films, based on the lives of great scientists. And even if the films are being made, they are supposed to propagate a particular narrative. Maybe sometimes that is a false narrative totally. So again, the more you are true to science, uh, the more genuine efforts you are putting in science, or in your scientific pursuits, you will see that you won't go towards that false narrative, because that might be taking you away from your congruence, that might be taking you away from your scientific pursuits. So it's a wholesome process. You do one thing and you figure out the other things as well, if you are totally involved in that process. So that involvement is really important. We are always using science, we are surrounded by science, I already mentioned it. And the relationship with nature, for example, many people call mathematics as the language of nature. So the relationship of with nature, you are looking at the patterns. Look at our year. I will show you a slide in the next day, or in the next session. You will see there are golden ratios, Fibonacci number, and they have a relation, you know so the ratios they have. And if you look at photography, the visual appeal of it, you will see the using the golden ratios, or using the particular arrangements or geometric patterns, you're having certain kind of aesthetics too. Geometry is giving you aesthetics. Maybe you are practicing it for a long time, so that you don't consciously think about it, but you have acquired that aesthetics for a long time, and that is based on the geometric patterns, the geometric arrangements. So when you are taking a picture now, maybe it is there already, you're not thinking about it. But if you have to explain it to someone, or maybe some other person is looking at the picture, they are figuring out that there are geometric elements, geometric arrangements, geometric shapes, and there will be those things. Either it can be like direct shapes, or it can be the lack of it. You're having gestalt perceptions, and all these perceptions, figure and ground, and all these things you have. So psychological aspects, aesthetics, and the way it is appealing to you. So these things are important. So the relationship with nature, your connection with nature, all these things. And an event is happening in nature. I was thinking about that yesterday and the day before yesterday. What is science? Why do you have to study science? An event is occurring in nature, any event, and or happening in nature. So relationship with the universe, it is making more sense, and you are going towards a scientific exploration. And when you are talking about science, you are having the empirical approach. It's like a systematic methodology you are focusing on. It may be a hypothesis you are focusing on. It may be you are going for evidence, or a set of evidence, because there are so many other things. Karl Popper talked about a thing called falsification. So that is also a definition of science. So there are many other aspects. But when you are going towards that thing, axioms and other things, your discoveries, you will see that all these things are happening. You will see that all these things are happening, and your explorations. and you're figuring out stuff nobody else figured, or maybe you figured it out and somebody else is coming in that place and they are challenging the notions, they are challenging the assumptions, and they are figuring that part of it was true, and then they are taking it forward. Very much possible in science. Many people have done that. But your exploration counts too. The path you took, maybe that is giving them the insights, that is giving them a motivation, because that was not there yet, but you took that path, that can be a source of motivation to greater scientific explorations. So all these things you have to understand. Sometimes the schools rob creativity. You go to study, just a minute. Come. Yeah, I was talking about the schools, how you can be a great scientist, and the schools sometimes rob the creativity so that you cannot be a great scientist in that way. You have to have that curiosity guide you. You have to trust in your instincts, and your curiosity can guide you a long way. So, curiosity and your higher pursuits, these can make great things happen. I was talking about that. So the sciences, it can be the sciences or the science or the scientific part. It can be used in the background process for making the movie. Technically, for the story, technically you are using it, as I just mentioned. Technically, you are using science for a particular purpose or a group of purposes like cinematography, sound. But ultimately, your purpose is to tell the story, and in the background processes you are using the science, as I just mentioned. And or you can use science as the story. By that I mean, for example, A Beautiful Mind, a great movie directed by Ron Howard. Ron Howard directed the movie, and Russell Crowe is playing John Nash. So as I mentioned, about the scientists and the lives of scientists, professional personal conflicts, the more you are involved in that thing, the process, while writing the script, researching about the person, doing your research about the person, and portraying the character in a genuine way. When you're doing all these things, your effort will show in the performances, in your directing, in the way you have put the film together. So that thing is really important. So for the story, for the biography, you can understand science. Maybe you have an inclination towards science. So that's why you chose that particular subject. Now you are giving your all, giving everything you have at your disposal at the moment to tell the story in the best possible way. You're doing that for the story. You don't have to come from a scientific background necessarily. So I don't listen to that bullshit. And you don't have to come from a particular scientific background. You wanted to make the movie, whatever you required to make the movie, you had gone through it. You went through it, and you did your job. And ultimately, when people see the movie, they can see the things. And the group of people consists of people who are studying sciences, who are established professionals in sciences. They can be coming from other backgrounds, and they all will relate to the human element. They all will relate to the story. That's why the more wholesome it is, the more many people can relate to it from different backgrounds, from different disciplines, and it will set an example, so that people from any background, they can come to filmmaking and they can make their movie. I'm just giving few examples, but you can understand. So behind the scenes, while making the movie, technically to tell the story, you can use sciences, cinematography, sound, art direction, production design, and all these you know areas you can use it. And for telling the story, for a particular character, for a particular conflict, you can use sciences. So those things. Now in India, I will just mention few things. In India, the problem is there is a contest. There is a contest. There is a lot of hypocrisy. There is a lot of pretentiousness that some people have to show who will attach themselves with science. For example, they have to make a movie on space, and who will do the movie on space? There is a contest regarding that. I mean, why? We have so many engineers from India. We have so many scientists from India. We don't have to do the contest, but there is a shallow contest. There is a very contest of the hypocrites. I will attach myself with science in filmmaking, especially in filmmaking, so that people will think that I am a great scientific person and I am the only one who can do the movie on space. I am the only one who can do the movie on science. There is a thing going on. I have figured it out. I have seen it, in fact. But these things are shallow things. Why? Because ultimately you will see many people will talk about this and that. They will try to attach themselves. They will talk about this and that. Maybe that will sound good too. But eventually you will see few people are working in rotoscope department. They are figuring out the assistant departments and second assistant, third assistant, fourth assistants. But they don't have the vision. They don't have the capability to make a movie, a grand movie, a big movie, so that they can actually make the movie, and they can uh, guide or manage everyone in the cast and crew. They can tell the story because they are not genuine about it. They just want to put a show. They just want to do the role play. They just want to build a narrative for the sake of this personal brand building, or so and so, this and that. They are just doing it for that. But the moment you are genuinely involved in that process or that storytelling, you will see that you don't have to do all this shit. The casting will be driven by the requirement of the storytelling, you know. So everything will be done for the right reasons, and eventually when people will see the um, story, people will see the movie, it will not be like this, that this is a space movie, this person is a star in that. It is a story. People are enjoying the story. Obviously there may be stars in it, there may be great actors in it, there may be great directors attached to it, great crew members, but they all work together to tell the story. You understand what I'm talking about? And the cohesion of it, the synergy elements, the synergy of it, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So we can think about all these things, because the moment we are putting those genuine efforts, you will see that the changes in education system will happen naturally. You don't have to put a lot of effort. You don't have to put a lot of efforts, because the changes will happen naturally. Filmmaking ecosystem will change naturally. The great films will be made naturally, because it's a part of the process. You have to do it. Many people will get inspired by it. They will do that. So just do it for the sake of it, for the sake of storytelling. Language, science, and all this fight, art fight, bullshit fight, and most of the equations you see in sciences, many are bullshit equations. You don't need them in real life. So I am talking about stuff, or maybe I will be talking about stuff where you actually can implement applications. Then you can figure out your own things, but applicable things. You can actually look at the theorems, eigenvectors, eigenvalues, what is the necessity of it, what is the essence of it, how you can use that in filmmaking, then your VR, AR, MR, all these things, then your coordinates, your space, how you can use that. We will talk about that. Don't cram the equations. If you are studying it early in your life, don't cram the equation. Understand the essence of it. Why the equation happened, why people created that equation, what was wrong in it, how it was modified. The more you do all these things, you can create your own equation because you went through that process. That is very important. So that will be one of my suggestions. And talking about all these things, art, literature, science, and these fights of students. I mean, this is so bullshit, because don't you get bored? Don't you feel bored? Don't you think that we should explore? And while you are living this life, we can explore, we can learn anything. So why we should restrict ourselves? We will study only art, we won't do anything regarding science. We will study only science. If some person is coming from science, we will do a lot of criticism, we will do a lot of other things, so that the person becomes demotivated in a fields, goes through a process of inferiority complex. These things happen, but these things won't happen if you actually believe in it, genuinely believe in it. So that is what I'm talking about. The fights from the institutions will go away. Great movies will come in the ecosystem. The education system will change for the better, so you don't have to put a lot of efforts. So convey and communicate, because and subjectivity, objectivity is obviously very important. I always mention, and in the next sessions I will specifically mention subjectivity and objectivity. Different backgrounds help, obviously. And Sometimes while you are in the scientific process for a long time, you don't see things, and some person who has read the book or has come with great insights, they can actually take the science forward by using the story, because the story is demanding something that is demanding another book, maybe, or maybe another higher scientific pursuits. So that's why we should do all these things. So convey and communicate it. Some people are great in science, and that is also a culture in India. And I will end with this. The culture is like, you are thinking you are solving a lot of problem. You are doing a lot of equation. You are doing this and that, but ultimately you are not good. You are like a rocking horse. You are moving, but you are not making a progress because you didn't figure out your problem statement. There can be many other reasons. So the culture is like, you are doing something, you are putting a lot of effort. Okay, you are spending your time in this, that means you are doing something. Maybe you are earning money from that too. But actually, are you doing something great? Are you doing something like you are proud of, you actually love to do? That's why, figure out your problem solving. Is the problem worth solving at all? That you can figure out by doing or but by doing the previous works or asking the right questions. Otherwise you will go in a loop, you will do things, irrelevant things, and eventually you will find you are losing the interest in science, you are losing the interest in your work, and then suddenly something will happen and you will get motivated. But the work itself can give you a lot of motivation. You can get motivated and you can take the work forward to higher levels, to higher pursuits. You understand what I'm talking about? So those are the things I talk about. And that's it. I think for an introductory session, that is enough. Because if I talk about linear algebra, matrix, it will take a while. But you study all these things, matrix, determinant, linear algebra. Then you study these, as I mentioned, eigenvectors, eigenvalues, all these things. Now, depending on the requirement, you are mentioning those things in scripts. More than mentioning, I will always state, you more than mentioning, find out the essence of it so that it can help you in storytelling. Otherwise it will feel like you are just showing your knowledge, you are mentioning few terms. The more you can use them in storytelling, people will understand the essence of it. That then, driven by the essence of that equation, driven by the essence of that philosophical pursuit or that scientific pursuit, people will think that, okay, I will take that discipline, I will study that, I will go for uh, that subject in my graduation. So great students will come studying great subjects, because cinema can be a huge source of inspiration. That's why we are doing this in Hok Aloron. Cinema can be a great motivation, a source of inspiration, and many people are studying. If India, if I can mention in India, great scientists are studying in or future scientists, or potential scientists, they are studying in IITs. And great intellectuals, great students with intellectual capacities, but they don't know uh, what they can do. The moment you have a movie, the moment you can create an ecosystem where the scientists are getting motivated so that they can utilize their knowledge to tell the story, to take the technology forward, or to contribute to cinema, you will see that cinema is something that is motivating the students. They know that they are studying this science. They are studying, suppose for example they are studying physics, suppose for example they are studying chemistry. Now gradually at one time they are contributing to cinema, but that entire ecosystem is helping, and the ecosystem is consisting of the education system too. So you will understand, education and cinema, they all can come together. We are forcibly keeping it separate. In the education, art, science, literature, language, and then commerce, we are keeping it separate. We should not do that, because now in modern age we have dynamic problems, and to solve dynamic problems you have to know everything. And the inspiration should come from anything. It can be anything, but you should be intrinsically motivated. It's not like that a particular school is telling you to do this thing in this way. You are intrinsically motivated. That's why, choosing the profession you actually love to do, that is tremendously beneficial. Suppose for example you want to be this, and you will do whatever you want to do to be best in that profession or to be great in that profession, because you are driven by something much greater. Otherwise, if you think that I wanted to be in that profession, but that become a hobby, now I am in another profession and I'm not quite doing my work. I'm not quite happy, and I don't have the job satisfaction. Very much the scenario in India. Why should we have that? People should be happy doing their work. Not everyone is. The culture is not created like that, but it used to be like that. We can again create like that, and everything will help each other out. Education system, cinematic ecosystem, the business, the artistic aspects, the literary aspects, the commerce, art, sciences. That is the reason we are doing it. So this is the introductory session. I hope you enjoyed it, and especially for the students of sciences, if you are studying mathematics, physics early in your life, at least understand how it is being used in cinema, and you will see that you will have some source of inspiration so that you can go for more complex problem solvings, more complex problems. You can go for higher pursuits. Maybe you are choosing mathematics, but you are so involved in mathematics, you are like discovering great things in mathematics. And many people are getting benefited. The humanity is getting benefited by that. Why I'm talking about the things in India? Because generally, uh, a huge chunk of student or a huge number of students, they are motivated by sciences. It can be applied sciences in engineering and technology, or it can be the scientific pursuits. It can be something related to physics, chemistry, mathematics, biomedicine, microbiology. There can be anything like social sciences. Great students with great academic potential. They want to study, they want to make a mark, they want to be great professionals. Some people want to be professors, they want to be great researchers, some people want to be great scientists. Tremendous potential, but they don't have the sense of direction. And the cinematic ecosystem or the cinema ecosystem is distorted in such a way. Many scientists or many people with scientific background, they don't even know how to build their way, how to make their way, how to make their mark. They don't even know that. So that's why in Hok Aloron we are talking about everything, whatever you require to make movies. And nothing is bad, nothing is good. We are just talking about everything, the arts, sciences, and commerce. Then you figure out the ratio you want to blend in, the ratio with which you want to blend everything together, whatever you require for that particular purpose. Maybe today you are doing a film on drama, but you studied science. So maybe you didn't use scientific technologies or sciences much. Tomorrow you will be doing a movie on space or something else, maybe a sci-fi movie. But no knowledge is bad. Learning is never bad. So yesterday, by doing that movie, you understood storytelling, you understood filmmaking, you understood how could you manage the cast and crew. Tomorrow you will be doing a big budget film. It can be a sci-fi film, it can be a film based on aliens, it can be anything, but you are using your knowledge. So you studied filmmaking in that movie. Now you are going for higher technical expertise. You're doing something that has been never done before. Tomorrow, by looking at your work or by looking at your management or by looking at your um, artistic endeavor or scientific endeavor or the synergy of it, many people, many young filmmakers, many young filmmakers from film schools or from anywhere in the world, they will get motivated by it. That is something we can do for the next generation, giving the mantle, and you take it forward. Eventually you will make your own movie that will inspire the next generation. Why I am doing all these things? One of the reasons is things got stuck. If I talk about the old veteran filmmakers in Hollywood or in global cinema, they knew that, they got inspired by that, but very few people are talking about all these things. So we need to talk about all these things. This is how we make movies, this is how we love cinema. So we will continue to talk about these things, and anytime you feel like contacting me to do a discussion, you can go to the about section, you can send a mail, and then we can arrange a session and we can have a discussion with the guests. Thank you so much. Should I give you the brand thing? Let's give it.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.